weekend. I had a pretty good time up in New York over the weekend with my wife and checking out the Smithereens and watching the World Series from afar and Maryland from afar and, of course, the rest of the National Football League. A very, very fascinating weekend in Cleveland, Ohio. I have a lot of friends there. You guys know that. This guy is a friend and a foil. He is Right or Wrong Fan out on Twitter. He is a defending champion here at WNST many times. He also covers the Cavs as well as the Browns for 92.3 The Fan, and he is an Indians fan and a Cleveland lifer. We welcome the one and only Daryl Ryder back onto the program. Not much going on in Cleveland here this week, right? I mean, you got dispatched to the freaking Browns game on Sunday afternoon, huh, Daryl?
Yeah, I got the raw end of that deal. It's a fun time in Cleveland, and just one more win needed for a second parade.
All right, well, let's go through. We'll get to the Browns at the end. I'll save the worst for last, and we've got the Steelers this week, and we'll get into all of that. But for a World Series, you guys are in the middle of this. Everyone here dreams of getting there. It's been since 1983, as you well know. You've now been to 3 World Series since the Orioles have been to 1. And somehow, you guys are the slappy franchise that, everyone says, well, they haven't won since the 40s and all that stuff. Sunday night, I thought they could pull it out. I thought in a one-run ball game, I thought Chapman may wear down a little bit. I'm an anti-Chapman guy because I don't like guys that beat women. That's just sort of a fundamental thing for me. I've been through the whole Ray Rice thing here as well. I find it fascinating that he's not more maligned, but I also find it fascinating that the way bullpens are being used, the way Andrew Miller, the way Chapman's being used, it's different than anything we've seen in baseball in this generation.
Yeah, it is, and you look at how Terry Francona has been using his bullpen very unconventionally. The Indians are a win away from winning the World Series with 2 starting pitchers going through in the entire month of October. Trevor Bauer with the whole drone accident and all that, he's not been right. So, they've basically gotten there with Corey Kluber and Josh Tomlin and some timely hitting. And the bullpen and the way he's used Andrew Miller by bringing him in early, or even flipping his closer Cody Allen and Andrew Miller in one game in Toronto that raised some eyebrows. And you saw Joe Madden last night. He pulled a page out of Terry Francona's book by going to Chapman with 1 out in the 7th inning. And of course, when Chapman came in, I said, okay, we'll see you Tuesday night in Cleveland. But when he came in Game 5, I was like, all right, he's going to get the 8-out save here, and the only hope is you alluded to, that he was going to hang something or wear down. He threw, I think, 41 pitches to get that save.
Well, he didn't pitch without trouble either. I mean, there were guys on base.
No. I mean, the Indians hit the ball off him, a couple of times. He's one of those pitchers, though, where it's a moral victory if you actually make contact with one of his pitches, because he's just that good. And it's the same thing with Andrew Miller. So this has been a very fascinating series, even though the national narrative has been all about the Chicago Cubs and what they've been able to do. The Indians have very quietly come back to Cleveland for a Game 6 with a 3-2 series advantage, while everyone is still talking about the Chicago Cubs.
Okay, you guys had your party this year, and look, the last time I was in Cleveland, I was there 6 weeks ago, right? I mean, the Browns were only 0-1 at that point. Who knew, right? And I saw you. My wife was out there. We spent the weekend out there, and it was a really sort of tumultuous weekend for the Indians, right? They had this huge lead forever. They had lost Salazar. I think they lost Carrasco around that period of time. It was going into that weekend. Paul Hoynes had written that their chances of winning were now, 0, and he's covered the Tribe for as long as I've been doing radio, 25 years next month. I've known Paul Hoynes out there at the Plain Dealer, and I know some players took umbrage with that, and there is a little bit of a collegiate sort of, all-in-the-family feel to the Indians, who treated us incredibly magnanimously last summer on the tour. So, I mean, I'm an Indians fan for life because my wife and I were treated with respect by the organization. So I'm pulling hard for the Indians. You may find that hard to believe, Daryl, but I am. And, what's happened over these 6 6 weeks of a magic carpet ride where seemingly almost everything's going wrong. I mean, when you start to match up the reasons the Orioles didn't win in 12, you could say, well, Markakis wasn't there. You'd say, well, why didn't they win in 14? Well, Chris Davis found himself on the drug suspension list. Machado wasn't around. Wieters wasn't around. There's all sorts of excuses for why you don't win. Boy, Tito's put all those away because I don't know how much more could go wrong than having Bauer playing with a freaking drone and cutting his hand open. I mean, I still don't even understand how the hell that happened or how stupid that is.
As crazy it is, but you know what? You're not mad at the guy. The team wasn't angry at him. Obviously, it was a disappointing situation that certainly put their backs against the wall. But he said, "Okay."
If Joe Flacco cuts his hand open this week and can't play against the Steelers playing with a drone, I'm pissed at Joe Flacco. I am.
Yeah, but and that just speaks to the type of environment that the Indians and Terry Francona have created within that organization. The antithesis of what the Cleveland Browns are. That's what the Indians are. It's like, okay, fine. You cut your hand messing around with the drone. All right, we'll sew you up and see if we can get you out there.
Yeah, go out on the mound and bleed like a stuck pig.
Yeah, go as long as you can go, and then we've got the bullpen ready to come in and take care of things if needed. I give so much credit to Terry Francona. I think I don't want to say he's underrated because what he did in Boston was simply incredible. But I think with what he is doing, not just with this year's team, but since he took over in 2013, I think he's done just such a fantastic job with this ball club. They made the wild card in 2013, a little bit of a step back in 14 and 15, but they've not finished below 500. Under Terry Francona, they've not finished the season below 500, and quite frankly, they've had a couple of ball clubs the last couple of years where they probably should have finished below 500. He is just such a good manager. He's a good people person, and I think that's something that we lose sight of when we talk about sports. The value of the person, the human being. We look at guys as their batting averages and their statistics and what they're doing for your team, but we forget that they're just like you and me. They just happen to play a sport and be paid a ton of money to play that sport on television every night, and we forget about that. He is so good with dealing with people, his players, the front office, the media. The guy's freaking hilarious. He told a story the other day, before Game 5 about how he couldn't sleep, so he went ahead and ordered $44 worth of ice cream and got to the end of it, and he had like 2 scoops left and didn't feel like finish it, and he said, the heck with it. I'm going to go ahead and finish it. I mean, he's so personable. He's laid back. He's relaxed, and I don't think anything gets more tense than having to try and win a World Series when the franchise you're managing hasn't done it in 68 years, and the franchise that you're playing against and everyone's talking about hasn't done it in 108 years. I don't think it gets any more high pressure than that, and the guy doesn't show an ounce of sweat.
Darryl Ryder joining us here. He is Right or Wrong Fan. That's RUITER, Wrong Fan, out on Twitter at 92.3 The Fan, as well as the Cavs guy. We'll get to the Cavs, and they play the Wizards late next week as well. But I want to stick to the Tribe before I start beating up on the Browns and just the city of Cleveland. A lot of ex-girlfriends there, a lot of friends there, a lot of people like you there, a lot of beer down in the basement and the flats back in the 90s as well. I was out there for World Series games in 95 and 97 when it snowed before Game 4, seeing Motley Crue and Cheap Trick over at the Convocation Center. I never knew what it would look like for Cleveland to win. It's always been sort of this joke in this armpit and the lake's on fire and the river's on fire, all that stuff. But after the parade in June, it feels to me like this isn't as big a deal as it, and I would say the same thing here. I mean, if the Ravens had won 3 in a row with Ray Lewis, it would start to feel a little trite. I think it does in New England for as many times as they've won up there. You start to win a whole lot. I don't want to say it gets old, but it's never like the first time. And had the Cavaliers lost in Game 5 or Game 6 or Game 7 for that matter, this would be a bigger deal. Am I wrong or am I right in saying that, Darryl?
No, this is a very big deal. In fact, the Indians held watch parties at Progressive Field and drew 68,000 fans combined to the 3 watch parties.
Will the parade be bigger? I mean, is it possible that it could be bigger? than the
don't know.
Cavs?
I don't know. I don't if it is bigger, Nestor. I don't know where you put the people because I think.
Well, the weather can't be any better. I mean, at least the weather may scale it down a little. I mean, look, I think the Indians are going to win.
It's supposed to be sunny and 72 degrees this week here in Cleveland in the first week in November.
Well, you should have won on Sunday night. You would have had better weather for the parade.
You know what?
Just saying.
Perfect party throwing weather here in Cleveland right now. I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Well, but it feels to me like having had the parade 3 months ago, this is, I don't want to say anticlimactic, but not as big a deal as it would have been. And if you say I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I guess that'll be proven out.
I think it is because the Indians haven't done it in so long. They haven't won a World Series in so long. Sure that this is the third time in my lifetime that I've watched the Indians in the World Series, but to be on the cusp of putting it away, I mean, this is the first time since 1997. They are a victory away. The difference between this series and the Marlins, they went up 3-1 in the series. The Cubs did what they needed to do in Game 5 to get it back to Cleveland for a Game 6. But listen, the Indians did what they had to do. They went to Wrigley Field and they won 2 of 3. They won that little mini series, within the series, and now they get to come home and try and win the first championship within the city of Cleveland. This isn't a road game now. They will come home to Progressive.
You will either win it or lose it on home turf, right? I mean, literally.
Yeah, and imagine what that scene's going to be like if the Indians are able to win the World Series in that ballpark this week. I think it's still going to be on par with the Cavaliers celebration. I really do. And baseball is, there's just to me, winning the World Series is a little different than winning the NBA Finals or winning the Super Bowl. I think I put winning the World Series on the same level as winning the Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? There's just there's something that's unique about it.
Well, you play every night for a month to do it. Yeah, I mean, there's a drama and a storyline that you're in it every day, and that's what's made the Cubs thing so interesting. And you guys certainly had your foots on their throats. I mean, Sunday night you had a lead in their ballpark. Things were setting up nicely for Miller, and then you had an inning where things didn't go well.
Yeah, they hit a couple of hard balls off Trevor Bauer, who kind of breezed through the lineup the first time around, but the second time around, the Cubs were able to get to him. And again, the Indians had their opportunities to win that game. In this series, Francisco Lindor's been spectacular. He's got 17, 18 hits.
Love him. I almost want to go get a Lindor jersey. He's like he's my favorite Major League Baseball player right now. I love watching him play.
He is so much fun to watch. But when you look at the Indians from an offensive standpoint, they haven't been a juggernaut. Yes, certainly they won Game 1 6-0. They won Game 4 going away a little bit, but it's not like they're putting 6-7 run innings together all the time. They're like 7 of 36 with runners in scoring position in this series, and yet they're a win away from winning the World Series. It's unbelievable when you look at some of the numbers and some of the things that happen.
But the Cubs haven't hit the ball. I mean, it's hard to win when you don't score. I mean, the Cubs haven't scored in 2 of these games.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing, too. The Indians went through, Boston, one of the best offenses in baseball, shut them down. They went through Toronto, who was one of the best offenses in baseball, shut them down. And now they're facing the Cubs, who are also one of the best offenses in baseball. And for the most part, the Indians have shut them down. I mean, listen, it's the World Series. Chicago Cubs are a really, really good baseball team, just like the Cleveland Indians are. The Indians are the team leading the series 3-2. The Indians are the team that is a win away from winning it all. And all everybody wants to talk about on a national scale, even when you watch the telecast, is the Chicago Cubs. And the Indians are perfectly fine with that. They're just like, hey, we'll just win the World Series. That's okay. You guys can keep talking about the Cubs and how wonderful it is and show all the celebrities and all the celebrity fans and all that stuff. We'll just go ahead and win games. We don't care. This is our identity. We just go out and do our job, and we're not a flashy ball club. And I think they mirror Cleveland in so many ways because they're not the glitz and glamour and the darlings of baseball. They're just a very good team that's effective and finds a way. And that's ultimately what it's about. Right now, they have to find a way in the final 2 games to pull this out. They got Josh Tomlin going on short rest in Game 6, and then if needed, they throw Corey Kluber back out there, who's been virtually unhittable this postseason. And I've watched these networks forget the guy won a Cy Young. Can you possibly mention that when he pitches at some point? The guy won the Cy Young Award a couple of years ago. He's a pretty good pitcher. So, but yeah, it's this is a lot of fun to watch this baseball team, and even with them losing Game 5, you don't feel like the typical feeling you have, from Cleveland teams when you lose a game. We're like, oh man, the world's going to come to an end. You don't have a feeling. It's like, okay, come back to Cleveland. Josh Tomlin's on the hill for Game 6, and everyone gets to rest up in the bullpen and go out there, and that same formula that Terry Francona has used throughout the postseason here. Get your starter 5, maybe 6 innings out of them, and then turn it over to the bullpen. It's basically these games, and this is something we haven't seen a lot of because the Indians as well as the Cubs, both of these teams have been great, with dramatic victories throughout the year, but these games have basically been decided, Nestor, in this series by the 6th inning.
Well, and you also haven't had starters going 120, 130 pitches either. And you've also had starters, especially on your side of the fence, coming back on very short rest. Tomlin will be doing that again. Arrieta's on regular. If it gets to 7, it's Kluber and Hendricks. Hendricks will be on regular. And I think that, this is not the way Terry would have drawn it up, right? I mean, if Tito had his way, he'd have 5 real pitchers like he had during the regular season, which got them into 90 wins. And that's not where you are right now. And I guess for Kluber especially, I'd be very, very nervous if this thing goes to 7 to be bringing him back short again. And I don't think that there's the depth in the bullpen there. Look, if Andrew Miller's got, if you get blown out in 6, Miller won't pitch, right? So Miller would be good for 4 innings in a Game 7, right? So maybe that would smell and taste a little better.
Well, here's why you're not worried about Kluber if it goes to 7. Because he threw less than 90 pitches in his first start in the series, and he threw less than 90 pitches in his second start in the series. Had he been overextended, had he had to throw 110 pitches or so in those games, I would agree with you. I'd say, man, that's a very big ask. But again, this is where Terry, I go back to the Trevor Bauer game in Toronto, the bloody pinky because of the drone. Francona used 8 or 9 relievers in that game. He was brilliant because he made sure that even though the circumstances were what they were and losing his starter in the first inning with just a third of an inning under his belt, he made sure that he didn't overextend any of his bullpen arms. No one in that game came out of the pen and threw more than 30 pitches. So that game did not wipe out the pen for the remainder of the series. That is an underrated piece of management. And Terry Francona very well aware, and he's done a great job making sure that, he's going to Andrew Miller in every game, but he's not overextending the guy or Cody Allen or his starters. He's making sure that he's balancing everything perfectly, and to me, it's amazing, to watch. So I'm not worried about Corey Kluber on short rest for a second time in this series because Francona has not overextended him or overextended any specific reliever in the bullpen, even though, as you alluded to, it's pretty much, the same guys each and every game coming out of that pen.
He is our old friend, Daryl Ryder. He is Right or Wrong fan out on Twitter to 92.3 in Cleveland, Ohio, and awaiting a potential parade. Game 6, maybe Game 7 this week. But we all know you're just trying to avoid talking about the Browns and how you spent your Sunday afternoon. We took the weekend off around here, Daryl. I mean, I went up to New York with my wife and, went to a DKMS event, and we saw the Smithereens on Saturday night, watched a little baseball. I got no dog in the hunt, but you do know I'm rooting very, very hard for the Indians here this week. I want this second parade for your folks. But at 0-8 with the Browns, we got to really start asking the question if they're going to win a football game, right?
It is legitimate. It has to be asked at this point. They've had leads in the second half 4 times this season and blown them all. They've shown the potential. You can see that there's a little talent there. they don't know how to finish yet, and I think that's just something that's going to come with experience. Certainly, Browns fans don't want to hear that, but that's just the reality of the situation. I think 0-16 is absolutely on the table. You look at the remaining 8 games on the schedule. There are only 3 teams under 500: Baltimore, Cincinnati, and San Diego. But it's not like those teams have one win. They're 3-4.
Hey, dude, you guys come in here and beat our ass next Thursday. I'm not going to be happy with you on Friday morning. I'm not going to lie. I mean, because the Wizards play LeBron on the 11th the next night here. So I mean, that's
the White House trip for the Cavs.
I may be. Oh, they're going to the White House that day, are they?
They get to go to the White House. Yeah.
On the 11th, really?
Let me explain. Hey, Nestor, let me explain. When you win a championship, you get to go to the White House. The Ravens got to do it, I think, a couple times.
Well, some guys decline. If you're Matt Burke and you abstain for religious beliefs or because you hate the president, don't respect the president or whatever. But if Barack invites me to the White House, I'm going. I just am. I'm an American. It's what I do.
Yeah. But they've got Dallas coming in. Of course, the Cowboys coming off the dramatic overtime win Sunday night against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's 0-9. That'll be loss number 12 in a row, which will set a new franchise record. They'll match their worst start in franchise history with a loss to the Cowboys at 0-9. They did that back in 1975. And then, of course, as you alluded to, they got to go to Baltimore the following Thursday night and have the world on national TV see how embarrassing it is. But it's very tough. And you can see that it's starting to wear a little bit on Hugh Jackson. I think he knew the challenge he was taking on here in Cleveland. I don't think he thought it was going to be as bad as it's been. And it is very difficult to keep telling players, hey, if you work hard, you play hard, the results are going to follow. He's been telling them that, for 8 games, and they've not won a game. And I think it's the only way this team is going to win a game. And it's not going to be in the conventional, just go out and you just really beat your opponent. I think the only way the Browns are going to win games this year are by flukes. The way that they won games in 1999. They won 2 games in 1999. After starting 0-7 in Week 8, they threw a Hail Mary as time expired to beat the New Orleans Saints in the Superdome. And they Phil Dawson kicked the field goal against the Pittsburgh Steelers as time expired.
Somebody's going to block a punt or something stupid, right?
That's how they're going to have to win a game. I mean, they had a chance to beat Miami, but Cody Parkey missed the kick, and so as time expired, so they end up losing in overtime. So that's how they're going to have to win a game. It's going to have to be in the closing seconds, whether it's a field goal or just some bizarre, wild, amazing play. It's that because they're not capable. They don't have the talent to just go out and soundly beat an opponent.
Well, I would ask you this, and I won't have you on next week. I may have you on after the parade this week, hopefully at least. I'll be having all my Cleveland pals on this week going into next week as well. But who's their best player? Like, I mean, you're 0-8. I've only seen them play once. I saw maybe some signs of life from some young guys, and, having seen the Thomases and the Batonios, and, we see these guys every year. Alex Mack. I mean, I've seen Joe Hayden, good players. Who's the next round? Give me 3 guys on the Browns that I'm going to want to watch next Thursday and say, that guy's still going to be in a Browns jersey 3 years from now.
Carl Nassib, he had as many batted passes at the line of scrimmage as Ryan Fitzpatrick completed in the first half, 3. He's a lot of fun to watch. I think Emmanuel Ogbah defensively is a lot of fun to watch. And I'll say Gary Barnidge. I think Gary Barnidge, people forget he was a Pro Bowler a year ago, and he's just one of those guys that always finds a way to be wide open on the seam. There are a couple of guys here that you say are some pieces and parts and building blocks, but Joe Thomas will never play in a Browns playoff game. Joe Hayden's not going to be here when the Browns eventually make the playoffs, whenever that's going to be. And so you do see a few pieces and parts, but they are so far away from even 4-12 and 5-11 where they were.
Well, they don't have a quarterback. I mean, they don't have skill position play. I mean, they don't have good football players. I mean, that's just where it's at, right?
They're going to lose their second game to a quarterback they could have drafted this year. Dak Prescott's going to come in here with Ezekiel Elliott and probably just rubber stamp them. And fans are going to say, well, we had the number 2 pick in the draft. Could have had both Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. And what do we have? We have, a bunch of guys that can't play. At some point, this thing is going to turn, and that's what Hugh Jackson is preaching to his team, talking to players in the locker room Sunday afternoon after the loss. That was the theme in the locker room, that, hey, this leaf is going to turn. We're going to make it's going to happen. But, I talked to Joe Hayden. He said, losing's old, man. 0-8, it's old. Everything's old. Until we start winning, it stinks. And that became the common theme within that locker room. So it's tough going out to their training complex every day, covering a team that, shows these little tiny glimpses of hope. But, going into the game, they pretty much have no chance to win. And the only way that they're going to win is if just something crazy and bizarre happens late in the fourth quarter, because the potential's there. And I wrote this Sunday night. The potential is there. The staying power is not. And until they overcome that, it's going to be the same old song and dance.
What a week we got here, right? We're flying banners from the Cavaliers. We're having the World Series in Cleveland. Wrigley Field is aglow. Eddie Vedder's singing the 7th inning stretch. And we're headed back to Cleveland for a Game 6, maybe a Game 7, maybe a parade. And, of course, the Brownies coming to town next Thursday, and the Cavaliers coming to the White House next Friday. There's a little Cleveland flavor going on here. I wish you could ship me something good to eat from Cleveland, but, I don't feel that way about Cleveland. I just like drinking the beer when I'm there.
Well, the food is good, the drink is good, so,
Mike Simon came and did a little crab thing over at Costas last Friday night on the Food Network, so we're appreciative to that. Cleveland's finest chef coming here to Baltimore to eat crabs at one of our sponsor locations. That's cool.
Yeah, well, I think we're up to 7 world-renowned chefs now in Cleveland, Ohio. So you're right, the food scene really
and
needs
3 late-night TV hosts, right? At least, right?
That's right.
Hey, man, great having you on, Daryl. Keep the faith. Stay calm out there, all right? I mean, you guys know what a parade looks like. I am fully with Chief Wahoo, and if I could wear that red Andre Thornton Indians jersey that LeBron has been sporting, I would.
Well, yeah, as I told you when the Cavs were in the finals, if and when there's a parade, you're absolutely invited.
If they would invite Charlie Sheen to throw out the first pitch, I think it would change things.
Well, I think that's more of a Major League Baseball thing than an Indians thing, too. And, I'll be honest with you, if you can't bring him out for the first pitch, you know what they should do? Like, in between innings, have him run out of the bullpen to Wild Thing. I think that would be pretty cool.
Have him sing, God Bless America in the 7th inning or something. Why not, right?
Yeah, dude. I think it's just going to be disappointing. We're not going to see, we're not going to see Bill Murray in the stands or Amy Schumer or all the celebrities. Although Tom Hanks is a big Indians fan, I think he's probably the biggest celebrity or well-known celebrity it's an Indians
I think
fan,
Jack Harbaugh is your biggest fan. Having, been to a game with Jack Harbaugh and knowing his knowledge of the history of the Cleveland Indians, Jack Harbaugh is a huge Indians fan.
Did you see his son last night dressed in Cubs gear with the glove?
Yeah, but he played in Chicago. He kind of had, and he's trying to recruit in Chicago, The old man's wearing Michigan stuff and just staying out of it, which is fine. But I happen to know what a big Tribe fan Jack Harbaugh is. So I will be having him on the program later in the week if he gets to participate in a celebration like that.
Well, we all know what a celebrity you are, so maybe when the Indians distribute their VIP list from Game 6 or 7, I'll look down and I'll see your name.
I'm a Tribe guy, man. I'm with the Tribe all week long, and if I weren't so busy traveling, I would come out there this week and celebrate with you in Cleveland. It would be a lot of fun. Hey, we'll see you next week when we see the Browns, the then 0-9 Browns. We'll see how the Ravens turn out this week against the Steelers. We'll check in again. It's always great having you on, Daryl. Keep the faith, man. Stay calm out there.
You got it, Nestor. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Get rid of the Cubbies. We don't want to see them have anything happy happen. I'm done with them after Sunday night. Vetter, I'm good with. Bill Murray, I love you. Even Joe Madden, I like. But go Tribe. That's all I can say. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Last but never least, breaking news. At some point, the Orioles will hire a pitching coach. We have Raven injuries all week, and who knows about roster moves. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. It is our best service, our WNST tech service. Nasty at WNST WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.